Hey there, welcome to the Breakthrough Creative. I'm your host, John McDevitt. This is the place where we talk about the business of art and the art of business. Today's episode is all about rejection and how you can deal with it because we all face rejection, whether it's dating, whether it's wanting to do something that somebody else doesn't want to do and you get rejected for that. Rejection is this thing that we are just going to encounter in everyday life. And certainly as creatives, we're going to encounter people who don't like our work, which is rejecting it. Doesn't mean they're bad people. I mean, they may not handle it well. They may be jerks. Or they may just be not interested. And in regard to our art and our business, we need to separate out a few things, and we need to learn how to manage rejection, because I'm telling you, this is so important. You can use rejection to grow. Rejection can be a positive experience. Even though it kind of hurts at times, it can be really positive. What is rejection? Well, rejection is I'm not interested. It's a hang up of a phone call if you're cold calling a client. It is somebody having you in for an interview, but you don't hear back from them, or you do and you don't get hired. It is making a presentation to a client and it just doesn't suit them. All right. So those are some basic components of what rejection is. And rejection can feel awful, right? Who wants to be rejected? Nobody. Nobody wants to be rejected. You want to be well received. You want people to say, you are so good at what you do, and we're just going to pour money on you, right? For your work. That's how good you are. You are problem solving everything for me. But it doesn't happen like that. Maybe very often, okay? It just doesn't happen very often. So what do you do with rejection? Well, you need to understand what kind of rejection you're dealing with. And I think there are 4 kinds of rejection, okay? So you go to a client, you're showing your art, or you're interviewing for a job, and you're rejected in some way, shape, or form. All right, here's the first type of rejection. It is the kind of rejection that can simply mean you are not ready yet. Okay? You try out for the team, right? And you're not big enough, you're not fast enough, you don't have the skills to throw the ball or to defend or whatever it is. You're just not ready yet. You need some more experience. You need some more weathering. And that applies to our art. It applies to our business acumen, right? What we understand about business and about relationships and about the words that we actually say to a client to persuade them to use us, to use our services. And when we're not at the level yet where it's apparent we can help them, or where it's not at the level where we actually can help them, we're just not ready yet. We're just not ready yet. So that's the first type of rejection that comes to mind for me. And it's the type of rejection that we tend to face when we're young and beginning. Although we can face it as we go along if we don't have a particular skill that somebody needs, or we don't persuade them in the right way, right? Because you're always selling. You're always selling when you're working with a new client in particular. You're trying to convince and persuade and comfort them that you have the answers. And so if you're not ready yet, what does that mean? Well, it means that you need to add more seasoning. You need to add more skills. You need more time. You gotta practice your craft of your art and your craft of your business, right? Okay, so that's number 1. Type 2 kind of rejection could mean that the client is not ready for you yet. The client is simply not ready for you. it's the classic case of, and they probably won't say it this way, but it's the classic case of, it's not you, it's me, when the client says that, right? So the maybe the right project hasn't come along for you yet. Maybe they're trying to get their ducks in a row so that they can get whatever it is they want to get done with you done. They've actually got to lay some kind of foundation ahead of time. They've got to bring it together. They've got stuff to do before you get there. It's almost like if you're painting a mural and the wall is a brick wall and it's not a good brick wall, and it needs tuck pointing and it needs sealing and it needs a nice base coat, and that's not your particular part of the job of the mural, you can't begin work until they lay that foundation on the wall, right? That's what this type of rejection is. It's not you, it's them. I had a client once, a potential client, that I met with on and off for 3 years, 3 years before they became a paying client. I would meet with them maybe once or twice a year. They would just be asking me my thoughts on working on a particular job. They'd bring me in, maybe show me a little bit, and then I wouldn't hear anything again. And I had a particular person at that company who would kind of clue me in on what was going on and where they were, and then she would basically say, "It's not you, it's us. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do." So I just kept on having those conversations because I was looking for additional clients, and I really liked the person there. That person is not just a professional acquaintance, but a friend, and had become a friend over the years since then. And so I just would be like, all right, when they call, if they want me to go, it was in the city and I'd have to take a truck out there, but it was nice to get out of the studio and I could go have a lunch with them and they could get to know me a bit. I'd get to know them. So I was building a relationship with them before they actually hired me to do any of the work, while they were laying this foundation on their own. And after that 3 years, they hired me for a job and they became approximately a $40,000 a year client for several years after that. And it was a great client. It was a great relationship. And can you imagine if I just said, "Nah, I'm not really interested. You guys don't have it together." That would have cost me, what is 40 times a couple $100,000. So just amazing, right? That this possibility and potential that I just kept on kind of waiting and talking with them turned into serious income. All right. So another type, the third type of rejection that I have encountered is the kind of rejection where they say no to you and all that, and it could just mean that they are not right for you. They're not the right kind of client for you. They are not your client. I've had that happen before where it looked like everything was perfect. Well, they needed my skill set. They needed my problem solving abilities. They needed all this stuff from me and I was a perfect fit, but there was always something that wasn't right. Either they in some way weren't ready for me, or they were disorganized, or they wanted my pricing to be a quarter of what I charged, or a really low rate. And maybe they were too short on their deadlines. Because at some point you just got to go, okay, this is unreasonable. So that this person, this company, they are just not the client for me. Okay. And then the last type of rejection that I can think of has to do with your ability to properly communicate your services to them, and then persuade them that you, and when I say them, persuade the client that you are the resource that has the answers to solve their problems. You're at the right price point, and you're essentially, I've said this before, going to make their nightmares go away. And if you can't communicate that well, you got to work on that. You got to stand in front of your mirror in your bathroom, and you've got to work down a kind of an elevator pitch, but beyond that, an elevator pitch is where you kind of hook somebody with a brief statement of what it is that you can do for their business. So my elevator pitch is typically, I am an artist who helps two or more parties to communicate clearly and solve their problems. And what I love about that is it is clear enough that they learn that I'm an artist and I'm visual and I can work to help problem solve for the clients. And then usually what happens next is they'll ask me, well, what does that look like? How do you do that? And then I will ask them, well, what is it that you do? And they'll tell me what their business is. And then I'm able on the spot to come up with an example of a way in which I can solve a problem for them. And it may just be that it's interesting to them and maybe they're not in the market for an artist, but a lot of these things just kind of come out of conversation where you get a client that you just never expected. So that's why you need to have your elevator pitch ready and beyond. Sometimes they're like, yeah, tell me more. Can we set up a meeting? And if I can get a meeting with a client, an in-person meeting, then I usually feel like I've got, 85, 90% chance of walking out of there with some work. So those are the 4 kinds of rejection that we're going to face in business. And the first one is you're rejected because you're simply not ready yet, okay? The second one is you're rejected because the client is not ready for you yet. The third one is the client is not your client. They're just not right for you. You're not right for them. And sometimes, well, if that's the case all the time, you're better off just parting ways. It's okay. No harm, no foul. And then the fourth type of rejection comes from not properly communicating your services and your problem-solving abilities for the client. And you know what? I'm gonna throw one more out there because this is one that is very true. It kind of goes under the first one, the you are not ready yet, and it is that you just don't have a clue of how you're coming off to people. Maybe you're just behaving in an unprofessional manner, and you need to change how you approach the client. I've heard this advice before. You just do you. Go be yourself. Maybe, but if you're not getting work, if you find yourself not being able to earn a living doing your art, I think doing the same thing over and over again is just crazy. As a matter of fact, that's the definition of insanity, right? It's to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and changing nothing and expecting a different result. So what you're doing here is testing. You're constantly testing. Is this working? Is the way I communicate with the client over here working? Am I getting the work in? Is my income reflective that things are going well for me, that I'm on an incline because of how I'm communicating with my clients and the services that I am providing for them? Really important stuff to think about. I just think most people don't tend to think about these things. And so the devil is in the details, right? Now, rejection. What do we do when we keep getting rejected? Well, again, like I just said, you've got to figure out, how can I test this and change something? Because sometimes you change one thing and that's the answer. And then you're off and running and fantastic. You're doing great. And then you got to keep on, taking a look at things and how you're doing, because it doesn't take much more than a few mistakes and you're kind of in trouble, right? So it's like if you're driving a car, you're constantly adjusting the wheel because the car wants to pull off the side of the road if the road is leaning or if your tires aren't aligned. And you got to make sure you've got brakes, right? So you can stop before you come up to that red light. And you're watching in your side view mirrors who's around you or who's behind you or what's going up on a block ahead. And if you're not that kind of driver, I don't want to drive around you because it can be dangerous if you're not aware of what's going on around you. And it's the same thing with business. We have to be aware of what's going on around us. And we need to be aware of what rejection by our clients tells us. Now, I'm going to tell you what rejection is not, okay? Rejection is not an indictment of your personal value. You are not your work. You are not your artwork. You are not what's in your bank account, okay? Rejection is not an indictment of your personal value. Rejection is also not the final say on your career. It's not the final say on your career. A lot of people give up too soon. A lot of people give up way too soon. And they think, oh, well, I got rejected 5 times. You got to go through rejection 1,000 times, a lot. You're going to experience it. It's just the nature of the world. And you're looking for the right fit for what it is that you do for the clients that you're after. Now, you can broaden your skills, right? You can broaden your problem solving, but that's a possibility, and you got to take a look if that's something that you want to do. But I've found creatively, artistically, you're better off to be, or I'm better off to be laser focused and focus in a few specific areas. For instance, product development is where I tend to make my living, or graphic design is where I tend to make my living. And I know the tools that I'm using there. And I know the clients and the types of clients that I'm after. And I kind of know what my pricing is going to be in those areas and if it's going to be worth it for me to work with that client or not. And so really, really important, right, is you got to know who you are and what you're doing. But when you're rejected a few times or 100 times, it's not the final say on your career, okay? All right, rejection does not have to stop you, nor should it, What rejection should do is make you stop and take an assessment, a self-evaluation of you and your craft and your business. And go, why did I get rejected there? Is this person having a bad day? I didn't hear any feedback from them, so now I've got to kind of read the tea leaves and figure out on my own what happened. Or you can call the client and say, hey, or email them. I'm just wondering, is there some reason, specific reason why you didn't want to use me or why I couldn't help? Is there a reason why I didn't get the job? I think that's really important to reach out to find out so that it can maybe take care of a really obvious error in your approach and make life a lot easier for you in the long run. It hurts to do, but use it to grow. It hurts less and less the more you do it because you just go, oh, okay, it's not an indictment on my personal value. It's not the final say on my career. It's just something that I've now learned is not beneficial to how I communicate or how I do it or, whatever. Use that information to grow. Use that rejection to light a fire under you, to encourage you that you can solve that particular unappealing aspect of what it is you do or how you do things. And you're gonna either remove it or kind of redefine it or make it into something different that is actually going to be of benefit to your client. And then rejection can tell us where we need to grow in our skills, creatively, and in our business acumen, our professionalism, right? So rejection is this thing that nobody wants to deal with. I mean, from the time we're very little, right? If you can think of that time when you're little and you're told no and you burst into tears or you're angry or whatever, nobody wants to hear no. Nobody wants to be turned away. And it's something that we're just going to face. So we're better off looking at the reality of it and going, okay, I guess I've got to face this. So I'll deal with it. And on we go. You know, we can't be everything to everyone, but we can be the right things to the right kinds of clients. And when we start to see the threads, the similar threads that run through our business and our art and the clients who like us and want to use us, now we need to take those things and say, these are the reasons why. I need to amplify those to new potential clients who kind of fit the mold of the clients I'm working with right now. So if you don't want to deal with rejection, I'm sorry to tell you, it's coming. You can get strong, though, around rejection. You can do it. You can become a stronger person because of it, and you will. And you are just going to have these situations in your life where people are having bad days and there's no reason why they reject you. And that's why you can't take it on as an indictment of your own value, right? And certainly don't take it as like, well, I'm no good at this. I need to forget about it. Use rejection to help you win. Don't go looking for rejection, but when you're rejected, embrace the information that you can get from it because it can help you to win. Okay? All right. I have recently started a business coaching service for artists. If the stuff I'm saying to you is resonating, if it's hitting home, and you are a creative who wants to make a living doing what you do, I have been earning a living for the last 30 years. I've made a really good income. I have had great relationships with my clients, and I know how to communicate with them, and I know how to deliver and solve their problems. And I can help you in a variety of different ways. There is a link down in the description of this episode, and it will lead you to my business coaching for artists page. And I'd love to help you. You can write down your information in there and send me a note about what you need help with, and then we can get started. And you would be amazed at what we can get done in a couple of hours. So if you're at an impasse and you need a little bit of help, believe me, I've needed help in my life, and I've reached out to people and gotten it, and from mentors who just became my mentors because I asked them, but then also I've paid for services to help get me past some difficult situations, and it's a worthwhile investment. So with that being said, I hope that you have an incredible week. I hope that you take that next step in either starting your business or developing a new skill or reaching out to the client. Whatever it is that you need to do this week, just do it. Write it down on a list, okay? And write 3 things down you got to get done and pick one and go after it, okay? Go after it hard and get about the business of doing what it is that you need to do to become successful in your career and to earn a living as an artist, all right? All right. I will see you next time. Cheers.